Good gracious, welcome everybody tonight. What a wonderful crowd we've got here. And I want you to look at this. We've got people from Burleson and Eastland and Cisco and Scottsdale and Bluffdale and Cleveland and Joshua. What about me? And then how about Greenberg? We've got people from Greenberg. We're so glad you're here tonight. We've got acquainted with some people around the area. And gosh, I tell you, I'm delighted to have the crowd we've got here. This is super. I think we're in for a real treat, and we're going to get started with our meeting. At this time, I'm Don Poe, in case you don't know who I am. Come on, we got chairs over here. Come on. Over here, come on. And we're going to call our chaplain. I can find where I can't find it. I think I'm pretty easy to see.
Shall we all please stand? Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we come to give you praises, and we thank you, Father. We thank you for this day and this opportunity. Father, we thank you for those that were able to get here tonight. We thank you for our speaker. We thank you for our leaders here, Father. Father, we ask in the name of Jesus that you just continue to bless us and have us to follow our leaders in the way that we should go, Father. Not the way that sometimes we want to go, but the way we should go. We ask that you bless our military people wherever they're deployed throughout the world. We ask that you look over them and guide them so that they may return to their homes safely. Father, we just want to thank you for the speaker that we have here that's come several thousand miles to Granbury to educate us about things that we need to know and do. So, Father, we just want to say thank you. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And while we're all standing, let's do the pledges to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And at this time,
but I've been here a long time. I don't know why.
Please stand.
Never
Thank you guys for your service. We really appreciate it. There's a few people I want to recognize tonight. Some of y'all may not know who all works behind the scenes on the board and does a lot of work that's not seen, but they all pitch in and do everything that we ask and then some. So at this time, I'd like for Maggie and Don Meisinger to stand. Marty Barber, Maury Simpson, Danny Jackson, Sheridan Don Sheelander, Dave Eagle, Michael Katie Lang, and Dean Poe. Thank you, sir. And we have some elected officials with us tonight. We'd like for those to stand, please.
What?
All right. Come in, Kathy. We'll start right.
Are you related?
I'm just trying to get her in the building. We'll let her introduce herself.
Robin Wilson, Johnson County Republican Party County Chair.
All right. Thank you.
Katie Lang, Hood County Clerk.
Mike Lang, Hood County Constable, Precinct 3, and / I'm running for State Representative, District 60. So as we go along here in the next few weeks, couple months, I'll be asking for a lot of support, so I appreciate your help.
And this pretty little lady that just walked in the door.
Oh, Kathy Gwyngy.
Mike, is there anything else that you want to say tonight?
We have started the campaign. We have a good group down in Eastland that's given us some good support. We've been down in Brownwood a couple of times. Going to go to Austin tomorrow and back to Brownwood on Saturday. So if you guys know anybody in the 8 counties that we have in our district, please come talk to me. I'll get names. I can go down and talk to them and start to get some ground support. And we're going to hit the ground running. We've got 10.5 months to go, so it's a lot of counties. It's going to be a lot of time, but I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Great candidate for us, guys. Great candidate. All right. Excuse me. At this time, I'm going to invite Chris Watson to come up. He's got a few words he wants to talk to you about a program that he's involved with.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Chris Watson. I'm precinct chair for Precinct 15. A brief bit about myself. I only got about 10 minutes, so I got to make it kind of short. I grew up in Graham. Now they're over there fighting against ISIS in the trenches, teaching these Peshmerga guys how to fight as well. Anyway, they're pretty tough hombres. So what I decided to do is the same thing that we're all here for. We're all here because we want to make a difference, right? That's why we volunteer for elected offices. That's why soldiers go fight, because they want to destroy evil in the world. They should. Better be fighting for the right side, right? I think that's what we're doing here, and I wouldn't be here asking your help if I didn't believe in this. So what I'm doing, I've got contacted the VFW here in town, and I went and bought a Foot Locker. I'll start over there. My goal is to fill that Foot Locker with supplies, medical supplies, chem sticks. I've got a list. I'll hand it out at the door when y'all leave, with the location and time for the drop-off. But medical supplies, bandages, anything that's non-perishable, anything like binoculars, mechanics gloves. Nothing too expensive, you know. The other part of that is I'm contacted with a company called Torchlight LLC. You can look them up online. They're a legitimate security contracting company that is already working in Iraq with the Peshmerga. They've agreed that if I can get any equipment and supplies that I can get to Springfield, Missouri, to their headquarters, they will hand carry and deliver and distribute to our American volunteers alongside and also with the Peshmerga forces who are boots on the ground in Iraq. So you can go to my Facebook page, Chris Watson. You send me an invite, and I'll be sure and add you. I put updates from sources that are on the ground, not weeded out from CNN or Fox News. These are Americans who are on the ground, who are friends of mine, who I've made contact with, and they keep me updated whenever they can get an internet signal. So,
where's that barrel going to be later on?
I'm going to have it at the VFW. I'll have it up there by 8 o'clock tonight, and you'll be able to drop off anything at the VFW here in town, and the address is on the flyer that I'll have at the door when you leave. Between noon and 10 p.m. there's always going to be somebody up there. So they've agreed to have that up there. As soon as it gets filled, I'll ship it off, and then I'll go buy another $40 Foot Locker and fill it up.
Do you take money?
I'm not set up to take money right now. Can only take supplies. Literally, I got the call about 48 hours ago. I called Ms. Poe, and she says, I can squeeze you in at the meeting, and you can give a presentation. So,
Will you have anything that you need for sale there?
I'm sorry what you're asking.
I mean, the supplies that you need, I'm not a military guy, so I don't know what you need. So will you have some of these for sale? We'll buy those and we'll put them in the locker?
No, I haven't considered anything like that. I'm not in the business of selling anything like that. I'm talking about bandages and rolls and Band-Aids and toothpaste, the kind of things you would send to any normal soldier in a care package. Nothing perishable, But But those kind of flashlights, little LED flashlights and things like that. So I think it's something worth doing, or I wouldn't be here. So it'd make a difference. Thanks. I appreciate it.
We have a Tea Party group, Eastland and Cisco, that are here. The 912 group from Stephenville. So we mentioned these towns a while ago, but you know, we really appreciate you guys coming. We want you to know how grateful we are that you're here. We hope you enjoy our meeting tonight, and I think it's going to be great. We've got a couple more announcements to make. There's a they're gonna do this at the Lutheran Church, and it's called Hood County Hunger Project. What they're trying to do is trying to get people to volunteer a little time and package meals. And they're trying to get 100,000 meals packed up. And this is like dry type of foods. And they're going to do it April the 25th, 9 to 3 p.m. They only want you to stay, if you volunteer for this, they only want you to stay 15 or 20, maybe 30 minutes max, but they're trying to get a lot of people involved to do this. I think it's a worthwhile project. One of our neighbors is involved with it, so she asked us, would we announce this tonight? And they're healthy meals, too. So it's feedingthechildreneverywhere.com is what this is about. We have, in case you don't know, some of you do, we were having a workshop here. In fact, it'll be our third session will be this Tuesday night, and Jim and Carla Logan are teaching this workshop. It's been fantastic. We've had 2 sessions. He's teaching on a book called The 5,000 Year Leap, which is quite a read. If you haven't read it, we encourage you to get this book and read it. Jim, is there anything you'd like to say tonight about it?
Just the more people show up, the better it is. So.
That's right. That's right.
Enjoy it.
All of you to be here Tuesday night at 6:30. We're going to have the session right here. So please come. And for our board members, I will tell you, I would like for you all to be here Tuesday night because we need to have a board meeting right after the session, the work session. So please attend. It won't be long. I will not be long-winded if y'all won't be long-winded. So if y'all can be here, we'll do some things we need to talk about. 4th of July coming up. We need to talk about that if we're going to do what we usually do. There's a rally in Austin on April the 15th. It's called Texas Tea Party Tax Day Rally. Starts at noon. So if any of you would like to go down and if you want to carpool, we're going to go. We've had some people that sent us message back that they wanted to go. So any of you that would like to do that, let us know and we'll all get together and go down and rally on the steps down there. Okay. You see her, George? Put your hand on
Don?
Yes.
Besides the rally, it'll only last an hour. There's going to be workshops, sessions, hour-long ones by some really, really good speakers, and you'll get to meet some of your the state reps and Can't hear you.
Can't hear you down here, Reed.
Oh, sorry. There's besides the rally, it'll be an hour long, and then there's breakout sessions in the afternoon, and they're taught by really good speakers. Brett Rogers is one of them. Remember, he came about saving your $25 a month, and really good sessions. So, and some of our legislators will be there.
If they show up, we'll at least know where they are. If you don't have one of these jars, this is our candidate kitty. Y'all remember what this is about? We've got 30 some odd of these out. We've got people that are still not working. Still not working. Still not working.
Is it plugged in?
You're a jinx, Don.
Sometimes I can freeze the sales. I had to get lots of help.
There you go. Can you hear that now? Yeah. Now, maybe forget where I was. Or candidate kit. If you don't have one of these jars, raise your hand, I'll throw it.
You know, I'm just trying to figure it out. I know.
Remember when Brett Rogers was here, he was talking about saving $25 a month. End of the year, we've got that much money. If you don't find a candidate that you like, you've got that much money saved. If you do find a candidate that you like, give it to him. Because, believe me, it takes money to run these campaigns. So, we've got this many left. We'd like to have all of them out. We'd like to bring that money back in. And I know a great place it could go. But I'm ready. So, anyway, let's, if you don't have one of these jars and you want one, just come by and get one. Okay? We're not keeping tabs on it, but I will tell you, when the first of this coming month shows up, I'll have $100 in mine. So, wow. So this is pretty good. $25 a month. You never miss it. Believe me, if you go to Starbucks, you spend more money there on coffee. Okay, remember we've been talking about the Christian Voters Group. This is a program we're trying to get started. In fact, we're into it. We probably won't really get this thing put together in the summer months, it looks like. But what we're doing is we're trying to encourage everybody that would like to go to the voter registrar's office and be able to take the little test. It takes you about 20 minutes to sign the paperwork, so you can be a deputy voter registrar. I've already done this, and it's a 2-year, you can do that for 2 years before you have to do it again. Our idea is for all of our membership, because we go to so many different churches in Hood County. I understand there's about 65 churches here in Hood County. Is that about right?
Yeah. Maybe 55.
Maybe 55 churches here in Hood County. Ideally, we would have representatives in all these churches setting up a voter registration table throughout the rest of the year, registering Christians to vote. Now, who needs to be voting? Christians need to be voting, and we need to be voting for who? Christians. That's who we need to represent us. So let's put some real effort into this. We've already heard, Marty has told us that the church there that will allow us to do this. And we've talked to, in fact, I talked to Bill Burton about it. That's our state senator's wife. They go to Lakeside Baptist, so that's it's a big congregation church. We'd love to have this. It's not political. You know, don't let anybody tell you that it's not political. It's just getting people registered to vote, and that's the important thing to do. But getting Christian people to vote. Okay? We want them to vote right. You know, we want to vote for a good candidate. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, right.
Now, at this time, I'm going to get out of the way. Because we've got an excellent speaker here tonight. I'm going to invite my wife over here to introduce her. Cheers.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that we are so fortunate to have our speaker tonight. And when you get here, I think you're going to think, he is, I heard him in Orlando, and I asked him at that time if he'd come to Granbury. Of course, he's from New Zealand. Where's Granbury? He is, he's done so much research on our government. Believe you me, you're in for a real treat hearing him talk. Y'all remember Van Jones?
Long time ago.
Trevor and Beck worked on that, and he resigned. Of course, he went right to another position, but at least he's gone from there. So we appreciate him for that. Lots of things. He loves our country. When I heard him speak, he said, you know, all New Zealanders love the United States. Really? During the Second World War, the United States kept us from being invaded. So, I'm not going to say anymore. You came to hear him. It was wonderful, and just enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Reen. Thanks, Don. And thank you all for coming. Can you all hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Can you understand a real southern accent? Okay, look, thanks very much for coming. It's a real honour to be in Texas, the state that gave us barbecue and Senator Ted Cruz. I really do love coming here. You know, you guys are the only guys that salute two flags, and you don't have to talk to people about states' rights in Texas. You fought, you joined this republic voluntarily, you know, because you wanted to do so. I know you have a vote every year, whether you should withdraw or not, but I'm hoping you hang in there because the rest of the country needs Texas. It seriously does. Reagan said you should always start with a funny story. And I had an incident in Los Angeles not long ago. I went to a street vendor, I like street food, and I bought some food, gave him the money, and the guy said to me, "Oh, you've got an accent." I said, "Yes, I'm from New Zealand." He said, "Well, where's that?" I said, "Well, it's down by Australia." He said, "Oh, where Arnold Schwarzenegger comes from." That's Common Core geography for you. Yeah. So what I've been doing for the last 3 years, I've been touring, or 4 years, I've been touring your country, speaking to Tea Party groups, conservative groups all over the place. Your government gives me 90-day visas to visit here, but I'm very tempted to stay for 91 days, because apparently I'll get a free cell phone. What a wonderful country. But as Reen alluded, you know, people always say to me, "Why do I care about the United States?" And I said there are two simple reasons. The first is gratitude. You know, my country was saved in World War II from invasion by the Japanese, by the sacrifice of your fathers and your uncles and grandfathers at the battles of Guadalcanal and the Coral Sea and Midway. And that's a big memory in my country today, folks. It really is. The second reason is related, but it's more selfish. You know, Ronald Reagan had it right. This is the last best hope for mankind. If freedom should fail in the United States, if you lose your constitution, your liberty, your economic dynamism, and your military superiority, all of which are in grave danger, the bad guys of this planet are going to carve up this world amongst themselves. I'm talking Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, North Korea, and their Islamic allies. And you see this happening now, folks. And your allies, from Israel to Germany, Britain, Canada, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're all freaking out right now, people, because they see that your president loves the bad guys a lot more than he loves them. This is causing big instability, folks. You know, your allies are looking at you and they're thinking, is it worth being America's friend? They saw what your president did to Poland and Czechoslovakia. One of his first acts of office was to cancel the missile shield that was supposed to protect them from the Russians. Then they saw him abandon Georgia to the Russians. Then when there was a genuine revolution against the mullahs in Iran, Obama did nothing. Thousands died, people. Then when Egypt fell under the control of the Muslim Brotherhood, Obama helped. And you saw what he was like when they kicked the Muslim Brotherhood out. And now they're looking at the Ukraine, folks. Whoever wins in the Ukraine is going to dominate Europe. All of Europe. It's very serious, people. The Ukrainians have a treaty signed in your Senate under Bill Clinton, guaranteeing that country American military protection in the event of Russian aggression. They gave up their nuclear arsenal in exchange for an American promise. And now that they need it, folks, where is it? So far, Obama has sent a few $100 million of non-lethal aid. He gave $2 billion to India recently for Agenda 21 smart cities projects. Yet, someone who has a treaty with you gets a few $100 million of non-lethal aid, and John Kerry.
Who served in Vietnam?
I'll get to that. Who is John Kerry, folks? He's basically Jane Fonda with less testosterone. But to be fair to Mr. Obama, he did put some sanctions on some rich Russians to terrify Mr. Putin into submission. I saw a rally in Moscow not long ago. I saw some photographs. Pro-Putin rally. A woman held up a sign that summed it up beautifully. The sign said, "Your pornography is harder than your sanctions." That's what they think, people. So you have a situation where Russia is clearly trying to retake its old empire. China building a big blue water navy in the Pacific. You've got Iran wanting to dominate the Middle East, destroy Israel, and ISIS committing atrocities in Syria and Iraq. Would any of that be happening, people, if you had a Reagan in the White House?
No.
But thousands are dying every day, folks. The world is on the brink of World War III because this country has twice elected an anti-American president. That has consequences for all of us, folks. Because I'm selfish about this. If America goes down, we all go down, people. There won't be a country left standing in the free world. See, this is not about, the Obama administration is not about a depression. You know, you're Americans and you can stand up and fight your way out of a depression. This is not even about losing some of your rights, though serious that is. Because you're Americans and you'll stand up and take them back. But have you ever been in a position before where your commander-in-chief is alienating your allies, empowering your enemies, and gutting your military? Obama has abandoned Reagan's doctrine of peace through strength. And what happens to your peace, folks, if you lose your strength? What's happening in the world today, people? Obama wants to take your Navy back to pre-World War II levels. He's purging generals he doesn't like. He's driving thousands of good officers out of your military with the gay policy, women in combat, and rock-bottom morale. He's cancelling weapon systems right, left and centre and blowing off military contractors with hundreds of thousands of years of experience in their ranks. He wants to cut your nuclear arsenal to 265 nukes and then down to 0. The Russians alone have 14,000 people, but they would never use them against you or blackmail you with them, would they? Because Hillary's made them your friend now. So you got all this going on, folks. This is not about a depression. This is not about losing your rights. This is about the physical survival of your country and Western civilization. It is that serious, folks. You've got to remember that Obama was mentored by pro-Soviet Marxists his entire life. Frank Marshall Davis in Hawaii, the man who basically raised him, almost certainly a Soviet agent. Alice Palmer in Chicago, the woman who got him his first job in politics, definitely a Soviet agent. They were all involved in the peace movement, folks. The communists control the peace movement. And the job of the peace movement is to gut your military, destroy your alliances, and gut your military. What do you think Frank Marshall Davis and Alice Palmer would think of the job their protege Obama has done with your military, folks? Been pretty darn pleased, I would think. So you still get some conservatives who tell you that Obama is just stupid. He's out of his depth. If he was stupid, people, would he not make some mistakes in your favour once in a while? If Obama was a fully paid up Russian agent, here to destroy your military, wreck your constitution, wreck your economy, and destroy your national sovereignty, what would he be doing differently than he is today, people? Hard to imagine, isn't it? I think the most significant thing your president said his entire first term of office, when he was caught off mic in South Korea, thought no one was listening, with then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Yes, Mr. Medvedev, when I get re-elected, I'll have more flexibility to deal with you. Yes, said Medvedev, I understand. I will pass your message on to Vladimir. We are with you. What more of a warning do you need, people? Now, my books, I've got both of them here. The first one is Barack Obama and the Enemies Within. Nearly 700 pages on Obama's Marxist, pro-Soviet, anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian ties. But to be honest, people, you see the size of that book, it's pretty heavy. And I got real sick of lugging that around the country, I can tell you. Okay? And I vowed and declared that my next book would be smaller and lighter. Okay? And this one is The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists and Progressives in the US Congress. And guess what, people? It's bigger. Because the deeper I dug, the more I found, folks. And I couldn't leave out Eddie Bernice Johnson. Couldn't leave out Sheila Jackson Lee. The next edition is going to include Joaquin Phoenix, Lloyd Doggett, and Mark Vasey out of Fort Worth. You got a few of them in this state, folks. Quite a few. Now, the book is really about the two big secrets of modern communism. The first secret, I think they borrowed from the devil, because we all know that the cleverest thing the devil ever did was to convince people he doesn't exist. What have the communists been telling you in the last 20 years, folks? Pretty much the same thing, right?
Yep.
Well, you can trust them just as much as you can trust old Nick, folks. The second big secret of modern communism, which is hardly ever discussed in the thousands of books on the subject, I think mine is one of the first. It is the ability of a tiny Marxist-Leninist party, maybe only a few hundred comrades strong, to influence and even control the legislative process in their country. In other words, to write the laws. So what I'm saying is, less than 20,000 card-carrying communists in your country are writing the laws right now that dictate and control the lives of more than 300 million Americans. A little bit far-fetched, isn't it? If I'd said that 10 years ago, I'm sure you'd all laugh at me. Maybe not quite so much now. Now, the mechanism they use, the main mechanism, is control of organised labour, the unions. Now, you were very lucky in this country for a long time because your AFL-CIO was run by hardcore anti-communists like Lane Kirkland and George Meany. But in 1995, folks, everything changed. A massive political change in your country, and I bet you never heard a word about it. That was the year that Democratic Socialists of America, your largest Marxist group, Gramsciist communists, working with the Communist Party USA, that was the year they took over the AFL-CIO. They kicked out Lane Kirkland and they put their member John Sweeney in as president. And now their protege Richard Trumka runs it for them. They took over every labour union from that point. They took over SEIU, AFSCME, NEA, the AFL-CIO itself. Every major labour union in this country now is run by Marxists. From that point, they mounted a purge inside the Democratic Party. They targeted the Dixiecrats, the Southern Democrats, the Conservatives, the Moderates, the ones who wouldn't toe the line. The last one to fall was Joe Lieberman, the senator from Connecticut. Now they own that party, folks, lock, stock and barrel. And the shame of it is that most Democrats, particularly in the South, are good, loyal Americans who love their Constitution. They have no idea what's happened to their party, folks. They still think they're voting for Harry Truman and JFK. Seriously. Neither of whom would get a look in today's Democratic Party. They'd probably be in this room, actually. So they took over the Democratic Party and they started dictating policy. So the process is simple. The Marxists set a policy. This is what we want for America. It might be socialisation of student loans, green jobs, cap and trade, card check, normalisation of relations with Cuba, which they've just got. It might be a New START treaty with Russia. It might be Obamacare. All policies that started in the communist movement. Every one of them. So the communists make these policies union policy and the unions make them democratic policy. You think, people, you name me one elected Democrat in this country, from county commission to federal level, who does not owe his job to the unions. For money, for manpower, get out the vote, even vote fraud. So if the unions come to them with a policy and say, this is what we want, what do you think those Democrats are going to do, folks? What they're darn well told, people. So I want to pick on an example of how this works in practice. And this is a very important subject in your state, right across the country, but you are the battleground state for this, folks. I'm talking comprehensive immigration reform, otherwise known as amnesty. Now, people, you have Republicans, and I put that in inverted commas, who tell you that amnesty will be good for the GOP. Because if you give 11 or 12 or 20 or 30 million, no one knows how many, if you give them citizenship and voting rights, they're all going to be so grateful, they'll all become staunch conservatives, right? Yeah, I laugh too. They tell you this seriously. We know that the Latinos, who are the bulk of the illegals, are often very socially conservative. And the Latinos in this state are more socially conservative than most. But we also know that in most states, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. And they will do for some time, folks. Maybe in 20, 30 years, maybe they will change in appreciable numbers. But we have 22 months, folks. We've got one election cycle left to save this country. It ain't going to happen in 22 months. So why did these Republicans tell you this garbage, folks? Could it be connected in any way to the fact that the US Chamber of Commerce has spent more than $1.7 billion promoting amnesty in the last 10 years? What do you think the Chamber wants out of it, guys? Is it hard to cheap labour? See, the Chamber is all about business and profit, and I'm all for business and profit. But when you're an ethical business person and you make a profit, should you not pay your own costs as well? Isn't that the way it should work? But the Chamber of Commerce and their friendly businesses, they want the profits of cheap labour. But the costs to you, which are the destruction of your border integrity, the lessening of your national security, and the degrading of the rule of law in your land, you wear the costs, people. They take the profits, you take the costs. Is that fair? Is that ethical business? And is it any coincidence that the Republicans who are most avidly pushing amnesty tend to be the ones most closely connected to the US Chamber of Commerce and big agribusiness? Or am I being a little bit over-conspiratorial, do you think?
Nope.
But the real driver of this is the hard left, the Marxists, the communists. This started out in California in the 1950s with a Communist Party member named Bert Corona. Actually came from San Antonio, by the way. He moved to California, joined the Communist Party, became a good Stalinist and also a Democrat. He set up the Viva Kennedy clubs in the early 60s, which was the first organised effort to bring Latinos into the Democratic Party. He also set up, mainly with church money, a whole network through the southern border states and Southern California of support groups for illegals. The purpose of these groups was to encourage illegals across the border, get them work in factories and farms, get them citizenship and voting. The voting was the goal, people. Now, Corona trained a whole bunch of disciples to carry on his work. 3 of them are very active today in California. They work closely together as a group, and they've transformed that state. The first one is Antonio Villagrosa, until recently the mayor of Los Angeles. A hardcore Marxist, he used to go down to Cuba to cut sugarcane for the Castro brothers. He turned Los Angeles into a sanctuary city. He forbade the LAPD from enforcing immigration laws, and the illegals flooded in the hundreds of thousands. Changed the entire demographics of the state. Second member of this group, a Communist Party supporter named Gil Cedillo, until recently the Democratic head of the California State Senate. A big-time amnesty activist. He is the one who got the DREAM Act pushed through in California about 3 years ago, which gave all sorts of so-called rights to the children of what they term undocumented workers. Third member of this group, another hardcore Marxist, the most powerful woman in California in my opinion, Maria Elena Durazo, the head of the California AFL-CIO, the unions. She is behind the massive union-driven, union-paid-for Latino voter registration drives and get-out-the-vote efforts that have added hundreds of thousands of new Latino voters to the California rolls in the last 15 years. Almost all of them Democrats. The result of this deliberate Marxist program has been to turn California from a reddish purplish state to solidly blue. All of the Electoral College votes from California now go every presidential cycle to the Democrats. Locked up, people. That's huge when it comes to presidential elections. The most popular state in the country. Now, the leader of the movement today is a man called Eliseo Medina. You've seen him on TV, I guarantee it, wearing a purple shirt, leading an amnesty rally. He was until recently one of the heads of the SEIU union, largest private sector union in your country. He's a member of Democratic Socialists of America. He supports the Communist Party USA, and he served on Obama's Latino Advisory Committee with several other Marxists. He is the man who got the amnesty bill pushed through your Senate about 2 years ago, and he worked very closely with Luis Gutierrez, the rep from Illinois, to drive it through the House. Gutierrez is a former member of the pro-Cuban Marxist-Leninist Puerto Rican Socialist Party. When that failed to put it through the House, Medina went straight to the President and urged him to put through amnesty by executive order, which he did. Many photos of them together. Medina visits the White House all the time. So he put it through by executive order, and you're seeing the results now. But here's a little question, people. Which organisation, we'll ask a question. This is Texas, right to work. But I want to ask, any former or current union members here tonight? Couple? Few of you? Not trying to persecute you, just want to know. Okay. Well, here's a question, folks. Which organisation in the United States 25 years ago was leading the charge against illegal immigration? Against?
AFL-CIO.
The AFL-CIO and the farm workers, right? Cesar Chavez. Because they saw that illegals were unfair competition for union members and would drive wages out the bottom, cost jobs. They had people on the border, folks. They were constantly lobbying Congress to increase penalties for any employer caught employing illegals. Very logical. So which organisation in 2015 is leading the charge to legalise the illegals?
AFL-CIO.
The unions, same people. So why were illegals bad for union workers 25 years ago, but now they're all for them? What's changed? I'll tell you, people. Before 1995, the unions were there to represent the interests of their members. After 1995, when they were taken over by Democratic Socialists of America and the Communist Party USA, their agenda changed to promoting socialist revolution. The illegals are bad for union workers, folks. They do cost jobs, but the unions don't care, people. They're happy to take their members' money and sell their jobs down the river because the revolution comes first, folks. And it is not easy to get union members to vote directly against their own interests. It took Eliseo Medina 5 years of hardcore lobbying and arm twisting inside the AFL-CIO to get them to flip their policy from anti-illegal to pro-illegal, which he achieved at their national convention in Louisiana in 2000. The Marxists did it, folks. But the really important question is this. Why does he want it? Why is he working full-time on this? And why did President Obama push through executive amnesty knowing that it would probably cost him the Senate? Knowing that it would, folks, and he still did it. Well, Medina let the cat out of the bag at a big progressive conference in Washington, D.C. 3 years ago. I've got him on tape, and I quote him in my book. He got up in front of the progressives and said this: passing an immigration bill, amnesty, is the number one priority of the progressive movement. We have to get citizenship and voting rights for our 11 million undocumented workers. And did he talk about compassion, reuniting families, giving immigrants a break, the American dream? Not a single word, folks. All he said was this: in 2008, Latinos voted overwhelmingly for Obama and progressive candidates. If we stand by these people and get them citizenship and voting rights, they will stand with our movement. That will give us at least 8 million more Democratic Party votes. That will give us a governing majority, not just for the next few election cycles, but for the foreseeable future. In other words, forever. Mitt Romney lost by 2.5 million votes, people. 8 million more Democratic Party votes. What's the GOP going to do with that one, folks? The first thing that will happen, well, I don't want to say it for sure, but whether you know they're trying to do it, Texas will almost certainly go blue. That's what they're trying. Battleground Texas. They did it to California. They did it to Colorado. Now they're coming here. If they can take Texas blue, the second most populous state in this nation, add the electoral college votes of Texas, add them to those of California, which they've already got through illegal immigration, do the math, people. It is practically impossible from that point for the Republicans or any other conservatives to ever elect another president. Ever. One-party state, folks. And if you think the Democrats are arrogant now, what do you think they'd be like with 8 million more votes in their pockets and the GOP permanently out of office? Would it just be the IRS they send after their enemies? Would this country become like France or Germany, as some naive conservatives still try to tell you? Or would it become like Venezuela pretty darn quickly and Cuba not long after? Because that is their plan, folks. That is why they're doing this. That is why Obama was willing to give up the Senate because he knows that amnesty is the road to a one-party state, controlled by the Democrats, the Communists and the unions. That is their goal, people. And you have Republicans who tell you this is good for the GOP. These are not stupid people telling you this. They can add up numbers. I bet you they know exactly the totals of the checks they got from the Chamber of Commerce. Yet they are still willing to give the Democrats at least 8 million free votes with no plan to counter it. What do you call people who are willing to sell out their own party and their own country for a few campaign contributions, folks? You said it, guys, not me. Now, the other thing my book is about is the individuals, because I think these people shall be held accountable for what they do to your country, folks. The book profiles 51 members of the House and 14 senators with very radical ties. It goes into a lot more than that. But I'll ask another question. Anybody in this room, not counting military, has ever applied for a federal government job who is willing to admit it? Yes, sir. One at the back. Okay. Look, you gentlemen, did any of you need FBI security checks for your positions?
Yes.
You did? Okay. I know that even the post office used to require them. It's relaxed now, but I know that these checks, they can go through your underwear drawers, folks. Check out your childhood, your family background, any dodgy relatives you might have, overseas travel, drug habits, criminal convictions. I had a friend who applied for a federal government job in Virginia about 2 years ago. Not even very high level. The FBI drove, two of them, drove to Canada to interview this man's communist uncle. On the strength of that interview, my friend was denied that job. Not because he was a communist, he's a staunch conservative. Because his uncle is a communist. And I'll tell you actually, people, I support that. Because this is the federal government we're talking about. This is the heart of the free world. This country has enemies who will use your weak and dishonest against you. They've proven that many times. How many spies have you had convicted in this country, folks? Traitors. You know, you might be guarding the president someday. You might be guarding a nuclear facility, have state secrets under your control. You might have the ability to influence public policy in a negative direction. But what if you're a young socialist radical who hangs around with the local communists, who control the local unions and the local Democratic Party? Someone like Eddie Bernice Johnson, or Sheila Jackson Lee, or Lloyd Doggett, or Joaquin Phoenix, or Mark Vasey, or Danny Davis, or Jan Schakowsky, or Jerry Nadler, or Barbara Lee, Nancy Pelosi. I could go on and on, folks. And these people can teach you how to speak properly, put a nice suit and tie on you, and they can get you elected to Congress or the Senate, where you may serve on the Science and Technology Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the Armed Services Committee, even the Intelligence Committee, folks. And they just put on, Nancy Pelosi just put Andre Carson of Indiana on the Intelligence Committee, a man with known Marxist connections and is also tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. On the Intelligence Committee, people, it's where you can serve on any of these committees, have access to all sorts of sensitive government information, and the ability to influence public policy, not just on a national level, but an international level. How much of an FBI security check does that one take, folks? Nothing. Zero. Because the people are supposed to vet the candidates, right? Yep. And the media is supposed to help you do it, right? How's that working out, folks? Look, the media can do it. You think of what they did to Mitt Romney and Sarah Palin, folks. They were so proud to tell you that those people had no privacy because this was a question of character. You had a right to know the character of those who might lead this country. They were so proud to tell you what Mitt Romney did with his dog on holiday. So proud to tell you about allegedly he beat up some young gay kid when he was 17. They were so proud to tell you everything that was in Sarah Palin's kids' Facebook pages. But why will they not tell you about the elephant's graveyard of skeletons in Obama's closet? Or Nancy Pelosi's? Or Eddie Bernice Johnson's? Or Lloyd Doggett's? Or Joaquin Castro's? Or his brothers? Why will they not tell you about those folks? Does having a D after your name automatically make you a person of sound and secure character? I would have thought more the opposite, honestly. So you imagine you're a foreign intelligence officer up in the United Nations, which has hundreds of them. Someone from North Korea, Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Russia, China. And you have networks of spies and sympathizers and supporters in the labour movement and the communist parties of this country. And some of those groups have the ability to elect their sympathizers into your Congress or your Senate, where they can get any information they want and steer your country in directions favourable to your enemies. Do you think those foreign intelligence officers are so stupid and lazy that they ignore that massive hole in your national security? People, if they don't do their job, they might not go home to a fat pension. They might go home to the gulag. You've got a massive hole in your national security. The most important legislators, the most powerful people in the Western world, who have any information they want, all the power they want, and no security checks. Do you think your enemies are not going to use that against you? Really? Because if you do, there's a bridge up in Brooklyn you might be interested in talking to me about. Look, every Western country has had members of their parliament arrested and prosecuted and jailed for spying for foreign intelligence services. You've never had one. You think you've never had anybody guilty of it? I quote Raul Castro in my book, boasting in the Cuban official communist paper how they have members of your Congressional Black Caucus, about 40 strong, go down to Cuba on a regular basis to talk to the Castro brothers about how they're going to work inside your Congress to ease trade and travel restrictions on Cuba, which they've just done by Obama's executive order. So basically that country can send more spies and more terrorists and more drugs to America. What do you call it, folks, when someone goes from your country to an enemy foreign country to help them against you?
Treason.
What's the penalty for that one, folks?
Death.
So why is it happening every day and nobody says boo? The old saying, why doth treason never prosper? Because when treason prospers, none dare call it treason. When there's so damn much of it out there, nobody dares call it out, folks. It's been going on for a while too. I want to ask a question. Any Vietnam veterans in the room tonight? One or two? Couple, three, four. First thing I want to say is thank you, gentlemen. The second thing I want to do is ask a couple of questions. First question is, was the Vietnam War lost in the jungles of Vietnam?
No.
Always get that very emphatic answer. Okay, is it true that your troops had some very tough rules of engagement? Couldn't chase the enemy to certain places, couldn't mine certain harbours, bomb certain cities, you couldn't cross borders chasing the enemy, you couldn't hold territory, had to allow the enemy to re-infiltrate. Is any of that true?
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's a really dumb question. Did those rules of engagement hamper your ability to win that war?
Yes.
Okay. So had you been allowed to fight that war as you were in World War II, to take it to the heart of the enemy and fight to win, do you think you could have won it and pretty darn quickly? Okay, is it also true that when you withdrew, that your Congress defunded the South Vietnamese military and guaranteed a communist victory?
True.
Okay, so you lost 58,000 men in that war, folks. Hundreds of thousands of wounded. Your brothers, your classmates, your cousins, your workmates, your fellow soldiers, airmen, sailors. You lost 58,000. How many millions of Vietnamese suffered? Death, imprisonment, torture, impoverishment. 58,000 of your men died in a war you are not allowed to win. I'm saying this straight. That war was sabotaged in your Congress by members of your Congress like Father Drynan out of Massachusetts, who are working hand in glove with the Communist Party USA, which was taking its orders directly from the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, which was allied to the Communist Party of North Vietnam. You think there might have been a little bit of treason going on there, folks? How many of those congressmen who condemned thousands of Americans to completely unnecessary deaths, how many of them paid a single penalty for what they did, folks? One of them is now Secretary of State. Okay? And John Conyers is still in Congress, people. How long's he been there now? 140, 160 years, perhaps? Think about John Conyers for a minute, people. He, for many years, one of Congress's most powerful people. For many years, he headed the Judiciary Committee, the body that writes your federal laws. He still serves on it. John Conyers, the Judiciary Committee is also the body that oversees the Federal Bureau of Investigation and sets its budget. What agency of the US government is supposed to be in charge of ferreting out communists, subversives, Muslim Brotherhood, traitors in your government? The FBI. Okay? So John Conyers has got a 50-year history with the Communist Party USA. 40 years with Democratic Socialists of America. He's been a card-carrying member of it. And a 20-year history at least, 20 years at least, with the Workers' World Party, your most hardcore communist group. They support North Korea, Iran, Cuba, and Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe. John Conyers is a hardcore anti-American Marxist-Leninist. As hardcore as you can get, folks. Yet he oversaw the budget of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What would happen to the FBI's budget if they ever came after John Conyers or his many communist friends in your Congress, folks? What do you think would happen?
Got it.
They might be a bit of trouble, might they not? So can you see the problem? You can get into Congress with no security checks, and once you're there, the FBI doesn't dare touch you because John Conyers and his friends will cut their budget. What about Charlie Rangel on the Ways and Means Committee? Good old Charlie, you know, the man who writes the Ways and Means Committee, the body that writes those wonderful federal tax laws that help your businesses prosper. You know those ones? He doesn't obey them, but he writes them. Charlie Rangel has a 50-year history with the communist movement, involved in 2 Soviet fronts that I know about, and invited Fidel Castro to Harlem in 1995, pictures in my book of them smiling together. You think Charlie Rangel is ever going to support the fair tax for you people? What about Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut, one of your top Democrats, Nancy Pelosi's deputy, basically? I've got pictures in my book of her hugging her best friend, Joel Fishman, the head of the Connecticut Communist Party, in the headquarters of the Connecticut Communist Party. Joel Fishman is the daughter-in-law of Soviet spy Victor Perlo and is the communist delegated by the Communist Party to liaise with the Democrats to elect as many left-wingers to your Congress and Senate as possible. What about Tammy Baldwin, the senator from Wisconsin, long-time member of the Colombian Support Network? That group includes Bernardine Dawn, the Weather Underground terrorist, several members of the Communist Party USA, and the late Howard Zinn, who wrote the textbook, The People's History of America, which is used all over this country. The Colombian Support Network supports Colombia's Marxist-Leninist FARC guerrillas. They are known as narco-terrorists because they fund their revolution by selling cocaine into this country. Tammy Baldwin has used her position in your Congress on many occasions to try and get US military aid cut off to the Colombian government so they can do to Colombia what they did to South Vietnam. And if they succeed, she succeeds, and the communists take over Colombia, they can send even more drugs to your country. But what about Judy Chu out of Southern California, one of your top Democrats? Looks like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, beautiful haircut, lovely clothes, softly spoken, on Obama's re-election committee, head of the Progressive Caucus, head of the Asia Pacific Caucus, two of the most powerful bodies in your Congress, goes to China all the time to build business ties between China and California, tells the Chinese press, "I'm coming home." The Chinese press describes her as China's representative in your Congress. Greensboro, North Carolina, folks, 1979. The Communist Workers' Party, a nutcase pro-Chinese outfit, got in a street gun battle with the Ku Klux Klan. Automatic weapons were used in broad daylight and 5 people died. Look it up, folks, the Greensboro Massacre. Pretty extreme, don't you think? Judy Chu used to head one of the Communist Workers' Party's main front groups for years. Still works with at least 5 former leaders of the Communist Workers' Party today. One of them helped her to set up the Asia Pacific Caucus in your Congress, one of Congress's most powerful and left-wing bodies. Folks, you've got at least 100 members of your House and 20 members of your Senate who would not pass a basic FBI security clearance to clean the toilets at any military base in your country. And neither would your president. You think that could be an issue, folks? But I don't want to depress you people with any of that, or bring you down in any way. So I'm a bit late. Sorry about that, guys. You didn't come here to be depressed. There's enough of that. Look, this is how I see it, people. If I thought there was no hope for America, I'd be back in my beautiful New Zealand right now, building bunkers and stocking up on baked beans. I'm not mocking prepping at all, folks. You should all be doing that. This is how I see it. In 2008, the left had a slam dunk. They had the House, they had the Senate, and they had their man in the White House. Finally, after 40 years of hard work, those 60s radicals, those Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dawns, who've been burrowing through the Democratic Party, through the unions, through the media, through the universities, finally all of their ducks were in a row. And they were going to have their revolution, folks. They were going to have it. But in 2009 and 2010, something miraculous happened. And I do not use that word lightly, folks. Yes, yeah, you guys. Where had you been, people? Where were you hiding? I didn't see you coming. You're working and paying taxes. I didn't see you coming, folks. But you came out of nowhere and you blogged and you marched and you emailed and you rallied and you agitated and you phone banked and you put some much needed spine into the GOP and you took back the House in 2010, folks. You and Glenn Beck took back the House. Everybody knows that except for Karl Rove. And that brought the agenda of the left to a grinding, screeching halt. They had it in the bag, folks. They were breaking out the vodka. And a bunch of amateurs and novices snuck up on them and took their toys away. And some of you wonder why they hate you. Why they call you dirty names. What have we done to deserve this? People, they had it in the bag. All they had to fear was John Boehner. And you took their toys away. People, I'm going to say something now, very straight. The Tea Party saved America. You might not see it in those terms, people, because you're in the fight. And when you're in the battle, sometimes it's hard to see the big picture. But I'm from outside. There are millions of people around this planet with a different view. And they saw what you did, folks. Because you imagine, had you not taken back the House in 2010, the entire agenda of the left would have gone in 2 years. Card check, cap and trade, green jobs. Obamacare would have been locked straight in, would have gone straight to single payer, and they would have pushed for amnesty, and they would have had 11 or 12 or 20 million illegals voting in 2012 and 2014, folks. And where would you be then? Where would you be, folks?
In the bunkers.
On the way to New Zealand, yeah. but seriously, guys, where would you be, people? You don't get a lot of thanks for what you do, a lot of the opposite. But I'm here to say thank you, folks, because had you not done what you did, we'd all be screwed now. All of us, my country included. I'm very grateful for that, people. Now, I'm going to do something now that's normally considered very bad manners. Okay? But I'm a Kiwi and I can go home, right? Because you don't go to someone else's country and tell them how to do things, do you? It's like telling your neighbour how to do their decor, you know? It's just not kosher. But I get asked all the time, you know, and my only value to you is as an outside observer. Because sometimes you can see your neighbour's situation more clearly than they can see their own. So this is my view, folks. Like it or lump it, as we say in New Zealand. You have 100 years of progressivism to unroll. That might take you 10, 20, 30 years. I don't know. But one thing I do know is you have a massive battle looming in 2016, folks. 22 months away. And you have to win it. Because if you don't, the Democrats are going to dissolve the southern border, even worse than they have now, and they're going to import as many illegal voters as they need to keep themselves permanently in power. Anybody think they wouldn't do that? So you've got to win, folks. And in the time we have left, there's no time for a third party. The time we have left, it's got to be the GOP. That's the only force that can stop the Democrats. But the real question is this: what will the character of that GOP be? Because if the old guard, the Karl Roves and the John Boehners have their way, they will give you a candidate like Jeb, Common Core is wonderful, illegal immigration is an act of love, Bush. And you're toast, people. Because you will dissolve, the Tea Party will dissolve, the Republican base will split. You may get a third party, but you can guarantee if Jeb Bush is the candidate, your next president will either be Hillary Clinton or Pocahontas Warren. It's guaranteed, folks. But if you have someone different, someone with a proven record of bucking the establishment and putting up his fists for the Constitution, maybe someone like your Senator Cruz, for instance, things could be very, very different. But how are you going to get there, folks? That's the question. I want to go back in history now, because I think this is illustrative of where you are now. Back in 1976, you'd been losing your liberties, Republican, Democrat, for decades. and the people were pretty darn frustrated, but they had no options. Tweedledum, Tweedledee. But that year they finally got an alternative. That year a man came out of California who spoke of a shining city on the hill, and peace through strength, and liberty in the Constitution. And hundreds of thousands of people just like you loved Ronald Reagan's message. And you all got fired up, and you joined the GOP, and you thought you'd be welcomed, and they would love Ronald Reagan, and you'd all join together and win the election. And what did the GOP old guard, the Rockefeller Republicans, the Karl Roves of the day, what did they think of Ronald Reagan, folks?
Didn't like him.
They didn't just not like him, they hated him, people. They slandered him, they sabotaged him, they dirty tricked him. Ronald Reagan was far too extreme to be elected. Ronald Reagan would be the death of the GOP. Ronald Reagan was banned from Ohio in 1976 by the Ohio State GOP, folks. They hated him, and they just beat him, and they gave the nomination to Gerald Ford. And Ford went up against Jimmy Carter, and Carter won. How did those Carter years work out for you guys? Barrel laughs, were they?
Yeah.
Interest rates up to here, gas queues round the corner, gave away the Panama Canal, gutted your military, Iranian hostage crisis. People, a lot of people thought in those Carter years that America would never be great again. Seriously, it was a pretty bad time. But the really important point is this. The grassroots, the people just like you, did not give up. They got more determined and more organised. They took over the GOP township committees, the precinct committees, all the nominating bodies of the party. When Reagan ran again in 1980, this time they were ready, and this time they were not going to take no for an answer. This time they forced the GOP old guard to give them their candidate. And he got it. They got Reagan the nomination, people. Reagan went up against Jimmy Carter and he took him out 48 states to 2. Not bad for an unelectable candidate, right?
Yeah.
Folks, the Iranian hostages were back on the first day. The interest rates went down. The taxes went down. The economy boomed. He rebuilt your military, and he rebuilt the pride and the hope in this country, folks. And he took out the Soviet Union without firing a shot. Any better president in the 20th century?
Nope.
Anyone even close?
Nope.
And why did you have a Reagan revolution, folks? Because people just like you stuck it to the Karl Roves and the John Boehners of the day, and you decided the candidate. Could there be a message for today?
Yes. Yes.
Because right now, folks, this country is Jimmy Carter on steroids. And you need Ronald Reagan on meth to turn this around, guys. Not just to go where Reagan did, way beyond Reagan. You have to gut your federal government and restore your constitution. You know that, guys.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do it? Reagan was a genius, the great communicator. He could unite the social conservatives, the fiscal conservatives, the defence conservatives, and he could drag those Reagan Democrats across. Right now, people, your base is very fractured. You've got 1 million libertarians who gave their vote to Gary Johnson last time. You've got social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, defence conservatives. You've got Tea Party Republicans, moderate Republicans. You've got 4 million GOPers who didn't even bother to vote last time. And you've got 20 million, maybe more than 30 million evangelical Christians who are not even registered. Think of what they could do to transform this country, both politically and spiritually, folks. And you may not have heard this, it's sort of news to me, but some elements of this base don't like each other very much. And you heard a little bit about that, right?
Just there.
A little bit of scrapping going on. Well, people, seriously, you're 22 months out from the most important election in American history. The most important election in world history, folks. Can you afford this?
No.
Can you afford it? Because you've got vote fraud to contend with now, people. You've got the media against you. You've got dirty tricks. You've got the unions. Can you afford to lose any element of your base if you're going to win and make that victory worth something? But how do you get them, folks? Because the Democrats, they bribe their base. And their base is smaller than ours, but they got something to bribe every element of it. But our base are like you and me. We have lives, we have agendas, we're individuals. We will only unite if we have the inspiration to do so and the incentive to do so. So how do you do that? Well, this is what I would do if I was a man like Ted Cruz, folks. I'd want to rebuild that Reagan coalition now, and that's what he's talking about every day. I want to get way early, which he's doing. He's following the playbook very well. And I'd go to all of these groups and say something like this. We have to unify. We have one chance left, folks. And to get you to get on my side, this is what I'm going to do to inspire and incentivize you. The first thing I'm going to do is name a VP candidate very early, and it's going to be Alan West. Right now. Colonel Alan West. And then for you libertarians, we need your votes. We need your energy. What I'm going to say to you is, Rand Paul is going to be my Secretary of the Treasury, and he can do what he damn well wants to the Federal Reserve and the IRS. And then for you energy voters, and there's a few in Texas, you energy voters, Sarah Palin, Secretary of Energy. Well, in your backyard if you want to. Then it's going to be Scott Walker, Secretary of Labour. And it's going to be right to work in every state, folks. And then it's going to be Mike Lee, Secretary of the Interior. And he's going to take those federal lands they stole off you and give them back to the states, folks. And then it's going to be Michelle Bachmann, Secretary of Commerce. And OSHA's going to go, and EPA's going to go, and American businesses are going to start employing and working and making money again. And then it's going to be Dr. Ben Carson, Secretary of Health and Human Services. And his job is going to be to end the welfare culture in this country and restore dignity to your communities. And then it's going to be John Bolton, Secretary of State. And he's going to flip the bird to your enemies, people. And he's going to rebuild the Western Alliance. And then, very important, Ambassador to the United Nations. No one. Then it's going to be Trey Gowdy, Attorney General. And he's going to go after those vote fraudsters, people, and he's going to restore justice to this land. And then for those millions of Christians who don't care about politics, but they do care about homeschooling, they don't want Common Core, I would say to them, vote for me and your millions. We'll make David Barton Secretary of Education. Name your whole team. Run as a team, folks, across this land. Name your whole cabinet. Would you be inspired by a team like that? And would it unify the base? Because everybody's getting something, right? You might not like Sarah Palin, but you love John Bolton. You might not like Ben Carson, but you love Alan West. Everybody's got someone to inspire them. And who are the inspiring candidates we've had, folks? There's only two I can remember. One was Ronald Reagan and one was Sarah Palin. How often, how much What others do we have, people? So you run as a whole team. Because look, think about it, people. Reagan had a base, but you think of what Mark Levin and Glenn Beck and the Tea Parties and the 912s have done to waken people in this country, folks. I've spoken in 43 of the 57 states now. And look, there are now millions of people who read the Constitution, understand the Constitution, and love the Constitution. That was not there 5 years ago, folks. Now it's an army. You put that army together with a team of leaders like that, who would stand in your way, folks? You would steamroll this country. Because right now you have a problem. Every 4 years the Republicans put up a candidate, and every 4 years the liberal media rips them to pieces. But how would the media handle Ted Cruz running with a team of 20 Rottweilers who are all backing each other up and not taking any crap from anyone? Reagan went straight to the people. He bypassed the media. You imagine 20 cabinet people in 3s or 4s holding mass rallies in every state across this country, folks. Imagine the base you would energise.
Yeah.
Imagine the union guys who would vote Republican so their sons and daughters could get work on the oil fields.
Yeah.
Imagine the liberal soccer moms who would vote Republican just to get rid of Common Core, folks. Yep. They don't like it. So people, there is a precedent for this. Ronald Reagan named his cabinet in '76. But there's an even greater precedent. You didn't just have a founding father, guys. You didn't just have George Washington. You had founding fathers. You had George Washington and Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry and James Madison and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. You had a whole team to run that revolution, folks. And they were human. They had their egos, they had their agendas, but they put them aside for the sake of the country and the good of the revolution. And look at what they gave you, people. Look at the amazing country those patriots created for you. So what I'm asking from you guys is 22 more months of the hardest political work you have ever done. I know what this cost you, guys. I know the time away from your businesses and your families. I know the time away from your hobbies, your friends. I know what this cost you. And I'm asking for more of it, people. Because 22 months is going to decide the fate of this country. And not just this country, my country. Not just your children, my children. I can't promise you very much, people, but I can promise you two things. If you do nothing, your children will live in slavery in this land.
Right. Yeah.
But if you give it everything that's in you, folks, everything you've got, if you give it everything you can for your country and your constitution, the very least I can promise you is the right to look your children in the eye and say, I did everything I could. What is that worth to you, folks?
Everything. Everything.
And if you win, and you can win, you will give your children not just the amazing country that you inherited, but one even greater. Is that worth fighting for?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to say to you folks, thank you so much for what you do for America, for Texas, for my country. God bless America, God bless Texas, and God bless the Tea Party. Thank you very much. Look, I had time for a few questions, but one thing I do want to say, there's a bit of shameless self-promotion. if you want to win a war, which you are in, you have to know your enemy. You have to know who they are and how they work, their centres of power, and how you can defeat them. So that is basically what my book's about. The other thing we're doing is this book is being made into a full-length movie, a documentary, coming out hopefully in October, exposing all the commies in your Congress, the enemies within. So it'll expose them, say what they're doing, name the names. John Sullivan, the guy who did 2016 in America, will be helping with this. So it's going to be a very high-quality production, the most powerful political, documentary ever released, a full year before the elections. So anybody, we're funding most of this for investors. If anybody wants to talk to me about that, I'm happy to talk. Send them a prospectus. If you want to help in a smaller way, you just go to Indiegogo, the crowdsourcing website. I didn't know what it was either, folks. It's a website called Indiegogo, INDIEGOGO, and you go there and you type in exposing the enemies within, and then you can contribute towards funding the movie. And at certain levels you get certain rewards back, and I think the top level is a holiday in New Zealand with me. No one's done it. Victoria's going to get it for free, but not, yeah. The books are 35 each or 60 for the two. We take cash and credit cards and checks if you're not a registered Democrat. But the other thing I want to say very quickly is the only reason I come here, folks, is because people like you are doing what you are doing. If it wasn't for you, I'd be wasting my time. So I'm very proud to be amongst you and very glad that you invited me here tonight. Thank you.
Trevor, if I just let you know, like many people in this room, you've helped educate me. I thought I was a really smart person until I saw you the first time on Glenn Beck, and you opened my eyes, and I started reading your website, I started reading your books. My wife and I are just, it's unbelievable that this was all here. This has all been here for 100 years. My parents didn't know about it, my grandparents didn't know about it, I didn't know about it until I met you.
Well, look, I thank you very much, and that means a lot to me, because when I hear that people have been reading my stuff or acting on my stuff, that is what makes it worthwhile for me.
Thank you.
It really does. Thank you. Lady just here.
What is this business about Glenn Beck leaving the Republican Party? Is that significant?
I think he's just had a fit of pique. He's just thrown his toys out of the cot, I think. He's had a tantrum. Look, I was on with Glenn Beck about 2 weeks ago. He was very despondent, I have to say. And I had to jolly him along, And when I talked about Ted Cruz and running as a team, he got pretty fired up. So I think he'll still support Ted Cruz. I think he'll still be in the right size. But I think it was a silly thing to do, personally. We need unity right now. We don't need, we don't need anything else.
Yes, could you educate us about the communist Castro brothers? Not the ones from Cuba, but the ones
which are
right
worse?
here.
Which are worse?
Okay. Could you tell us about some of the Castro brothers' ties?
Okay. Well, you got Joaquin and Julian up here in San Antonio. Look, San Antonio has been a centre of the Communist Party since the Pecan Picker strike in 1928. Emma Temayuka and whatever. The Communist Party's been strong. Rosie Castro, their mother, was very actively involved in Communist Party circles. Both Julian and Joaquin are very close to communists like Patty Radel and others in San Antonio right now. They are the Latino Obamas, right? Now I'll give you another little example. In San Antonio, there was a Sutton family. They've still got a funeral home there. 12 kids. 6 of them became Communist Party members. One of them stayed in San Antonio, and his group, George Sutton, was involved in the group that mentored the Castro brothers. One of the other brothers went to Harlem. Percy Sutton became the Harlem borough president. Very involved with the Communist Party, a top Democrat, involved with David Dinkins and all these people, Charlie Rangel. it was Sutton that mentored Eric Holder, got Eric Holder his job. It was also Sutton, on the behest of a Black Panther from Texas who was working for a Saudi prince. It was that Sutton who wrote a letter of recommendation to get Obama into Harvard. This is a very incestuous movement we're talking here, and San Antonio has been a communist centre for a long time. You don't hear about it, you don't know anything about it, but you got city councils like Patty Radel, etc., are very closely involved with the Communist Party, and both of the Castro brothers and their mother Rosie were all heavily involved with Communist Party figures, all of them. This gentleman here. Yeah, yes, sir.
Just two statements. You keep saying 22 months. We don't have 22 months. We have less than a year. Texas primary is March 1st next year. Very important. We are the 5th primary. For the first time, we will actually have a say in something.
Yeah.
All of the primaries will be, probably the important ones will be completed by May. So
yeah,
we have, that's where we have to make our stand.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yep.
And number two, Beck did explain his thing on Republican Park. Don't give any money to the National.
Oh yeah, look, I agree.
And I'm the chair of the Erath County Republican Party.
Yeah.
Keep it local.
Look, you don't give your money to the RNC, you give it to candidates you support. And when Karl Rove started criticising the Tea Party, his funds just disappeared. What a shame. Yeah. But you're right. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just wonder, the military drills that are fixing to go on in 10 states,
Yeah.
do you think this has to do with in case we get someone...
Like some form of martial law or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you can never count that out, you know. Like the left will not give up power in this country without a fight. Because they know that a Ted Cruz president could undo their agenda. So they're going to try every dirty trick in the book. And if it really came down to it, some form of martial law on the back of some emergency somewhere or a terrorist attack, it could never count it out. That's why you people have to be so strong and so powerful that that doesn't happen. Like, it is a possibility though, ma'am, it is. And as this gentleman said, when I say 22 months, I'm actually wrong. It's till the end of the primaries, because that's going to decide things. Mr. Oh, yes, yes, sir.
You're so alert about borders, but New Zealand, what do you have? Australians coming down and Antarctica people coming over? Where do you get your...
Well, we have a small number of illegals, mainly Pacific Islanders, who come in on work permits and overstay. And we used to round them up and send them back. I don't think we do much now. We also have a few Asians who come in and overstay. And Iranians were coming in the 70s, tearing up their passports and claiming refugee status. But we don't, you know, it's pretty hard to swim to New Zealand. So illegal immigration is a much smaller problem for us than it is for you.
But you have a wonderful understanding of ours.
Yeah, well, look, if you live in a country like New Zealand, you have to understand America, because how America goes is how we go. You know, if America sneezes, we catch a cold. You know, so they say. So, but I've made it my business. Like, I got into this really, I've been researching the left in New Zealand for years, but in 2007, I was researching America. I discovered Obama's connections to Frank Marshall Davis, and that got me on the path. So
Nobody knows about that.
Well, yeah. Well, when Giuliani raised it, this was supposed to be controversial. We've known this for years. You know, and people say Obama loves his country. Well, yeah. Well, Hitler loved his country. Stalin loved his country. Idi Amin loved his country. Putin loves his country. Doesn't make you a good guy. You know. Mr. Watson.
Going all the way back to 1917, there's never been, that I can recall as a student of history, where the communists have been successful in taking over a country, that at some point someone didn't raise arms. There's been, you can have all this social stuff for 50 years and everything, at some point they have to take everything over. And I'm wondering if the war on cops that we have, the people who actually support the Constitution and swore an oath to defend it, that you see the media and the president that says war on cops. I wonder if they're trying to do that. And secondly, why would they give up and attack the Second Amendment? They need the Second Amendment in order to have their communist revolution.
Look, the left is not anti-guns. They're just anti-you having guns. But they want all the guns themselves. And the war on cops is absolutely a communist thing. It's driven by the Communist Party USA, who are heavily involved in Ferguson, the Workers' World Party, which has been involved in all of these protests all over the country, and they've been going over to Russia and over to Palestine to work with the Palestinian radicals, the breakaway Russian republics, you know, in Donetsk and whatever. The war on cops is 100% Marxist driven for two reasons: break down your society and pave the way for the federalisation of the police force. Two things. Very serious issue, folks.
Everything's broken. With Obama, everything is broken. I have to fix this. I'm going to see people going to fix it. Say the cops, maybe.
Look, Obama does, what is one thing Obama has done to help this country, make it better? He couldn't, if he was deliberately trying to destroy this country, I couldn't see how he'd do it any better. He's either very stupid and lucky, or he's malevolent. And my contention is he's malevolent, and so are most of the Democratic Party leadership.
You paint a rosy picture of the change that's going to run, but you realize the GOP is stacked with debt against early primaries, where all primaries before May 1st, the individuals that are running get the percentage of votes that they get in that primary. After May 1st, it's a winner-take-all. So all of these, you know, we're going to have Scott Walker, we're going to have Rand Paul, we're going to have the Dr. Ben Carson. These people are all going to be running and dividing all of our votes. And yet you're going to have Jeb Bush there, which is the only one who's running as a...
Yeah, sure. And look, I understand what they're trying to do. That's why Ted Cruz has been so smart to get out early. Because I'm hoping that a lot of these other guys will basically give up and join his team. So that it comes down to Jeb Bush versus Ted Cruz. I'm not blind to the deviousness of the GOP old guard at all, and I accept exactly what you're saying. There's no guarantee of winning this thing, but the best candidate we've got is Ted Cruz, and his best hope is if he runs with a team. And I'll tell you a little story. I was at CPAC, and I walked up to Mr. Cruz. I saw Ted Cruz, walked up to him and said, "Oh, Mr. Cruz, Trevor Loudon from New Zealand." He leaned over to me and said, that idea of running as a slate, as a team, that's phenomenal. So he knows about it.
Are you from Christchurch? Or?
I am.
Got a good friend lives there.
You've been there. Oh, yeah, it's a great city. Had a few problems with earthquakes, but other than that,
3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, look, we've never stopped. But, you know, it's a great city to go back to. But I think that's pretty much it for questions. We've got some books here still, but I just want to say thanks very much for coming, guys. It's really great to have you.